Hi everyone, it's Melissa Davis from By Mimi with Love, and welcome to Mimi's Watercoloring World. Guys, I am starting this little series where I am going to watercolor with you guys because Linda of Linda's Creative Life sent me this book at the beginning of summer, and it has taught me so much about watercoloring. And I want to continue to learn, and I thought it'd be fun if we learn together. So we're going to start, and we're going to start right at the beginning. I have redrawn what we need to get started. All you're going to need is some watercolors, which I've got, doesn't matter where they're from, Dollar Tree, it doesn't matter, and some watercolor paper. Some water, of course, a towel, and we're going to watercolor. The watercolor paper is important because watercolor does act differently on watercolor paper. Excuse me. We're going to talk about the different types of watercoloring, the different methods, and why you use them, okay? So, this just taught me so much, and I want to continue to learn and share some of this with you guys. I will be using a size 8 round brush, and it is by Master's Touch, and of course Master's Touch is from Hobby Lobby. And this is Mi Liang watercolors. Now, it doesn't matter, like I said, which colors you want to use, which watercolor palette you want to use. For this first exercise, we are going to learn what wet on dry means. That means we are putting wet watercolor on dry paper, okay? Now, this method is used for detail, a more crisp look. If you wanted to make sure you were painting lines, a more detailed painting, then you would use the wet on dry method. And that's what we're going to practice today. I want you to draw 4 boxes. It doesn't matter what the boxes look like. If you don't draw boxes, draw 4 circles. And then 2 bigger circles down here. So you're going to have 4 boxes and 2 circles. And then we're going to choose one color for up here, and we're going to take that color from light to dark, showing us how many different hues and tones we can get out of the one color. So to do that, I'm going to wet my brush really well, and I've got a clean water and a dirty water. I always use 2 waters, and I'm just going to choose a color that's easy to see. So I'm going to go with this green. Now the first thing I want, my first block, I'm going from light to dark. Of course, when you are using watercolor, the pigment saturation, how much color you're going to get, is determined by how much water you put with your paint. Well, if we want the lightest out of this, then we've got to add more water to get the lightest shade. We're going to tap over, and we're going to come over here, and we're doing wet on dry. And we've got our color very light because we used a lot of water to saturate our brush. A lot of water. Then we want to go a little darker. Same color. We're discovering how the same color can go with so many shades. So we're picking up the color again, but this is still more concentrated than we need. So we're going to the next lightest. Need just a little more color. up just a, oops, I went too much. I'm going to show you guys how to pick that up. Because I added way too much color. So when you're picking up color, you draw off your brush and then just kind of twist it and pick it up off of the paper. So here's our next darker color. One thing about watercolor is it's very forgiving. You can definitely pick it up and redo and let it dry and put more layers on it. So we've went a little darker. Now we're going to go even darker with this color. Our next one would be even darker. And you could do this with any color in your palette. So mixing color or coming up with the right shade or having different shades is endless in watercolors, because you can do this over and over again and get lighter and lighter or darker and darker with every color that is in your palette. Now we're going to go really dark. And there's our full-on concentrate. We're doing wet on dry, and as you can see, I've got more control over where my paint is going because I'm wetting my paper as I'm painting. I'm doing wet on dry. And there you have 4 completely different shades out of the same color. And that's what you should have got as well. Make sure that you are drawing these boxes and doing these little exercises. They may seem silly, but they really make a difference when you see how you use your brush and your amount of water to get the control that you want. Okay? Now on our circles down here, okay, we're going to layer our colors to get different colors. Okay? So let's clean our brush. And we'll go down here to a little lighter color. So I'm going to, or brighter I should say. I'm going to pick up this orange here. Well, yellow orange, I guess. I'm going to rinse that off because it had some darker paint in it. So I want to start out really light. Bring it over here and add some water because, of course, we're going to layer. So we're going to start out really with our lightest. Tap on my towel and come over here to my first circle. And we've got our first layer down. Now we want to let this layer dry. When you're layering watercolor, you've got to let each layer must dry before, or it's just going to work together as long as there's a wet surface or wet water, right? So we're going to go ahead and put down a layer in this circle, except for we're going to use this circle to add different colored layers too. So we'll get a base on that one. Just pick up that extra color. There we go. And we'll let both of those dry. While those are drying, I drew an apple. Now there is not an apple in the book, but the apple is such a good example of how you use one color to get all the shading that you want. It just helps you understand what you can do with one color. If you can't draw an apple, no problem. just draw a big circle with a couple sticks. Make sure you add the sticks, because this is where our shading is on this apple, is up here. It's going to be darker up here around the sticks. Now, the one thing that I still do occasionally, and that you can keep doing, is I use an erasable pen before I ever start my painting, and decide where I want my light to come from. And I draw me a little flashlight. My light's coming from up here. So I know it's coming in just like this. Okay? That's how it's coming in. I want to know that before I start painting. Then I can put on my first layer, and that's how you're going to do your apple. You're going to layer your apple just like we're layering our circles now. And that'll be what you practice on until we meet again, because you really want to get this part down. So, our first layer is dry. We're going in with the same color. Okay, and let's pick up just a little more of it. And darker this time, but it's the same color. And it's much darker because we're layering it. And as you can see, that's the same color, and you're getting such a different amount of pigment from it, right? So let's say on this one we're going to go with a little bit darker, a little darker orange. And we're going to add some water to it. It's a little darker. And we're just going to go over this whole thing. Okay. That I've added a whole shade lighter on the orange. I went all the way up here to get more color, and I can keep going on those. Okay. Now this one is almost dry again. I can go back into that same original color and go even darker with the more concentrated. And you see how really dark that's getting now. Look at the contrast. This is the same color. And by adding layers, it's smooth, it still looks nice, and the top color gets more intense. Now, let's try a even darker orange, almost an orange red, on our next one. And let's see how it looks. As you can see, it's just endless. We can keep going and keep going and keep going. It's all in how much water you put on your brush, allowing the layers to dry in between, testing your colors to see what shade you actually want. This is wet on dry technique. Wet on dry. Give it a practice. Draw you an apple. And join me next time for Mimi's Watercoloring World from Virginia, guys. We'll be talking to you really soon. Bye-bye.